My name is Megan. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and in 2017, March, I was diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic melanoma. Prior to my diagnosis, I had a love for cooking. The love for cooking didn't stop, but being sick caused me to not be able to do the same to the same capacity at times. But I have an Instagram page that I have a lot of food posted because I love to cook. I love to travel. My husband and I have been married for 10 years and together for almost 20. I noticed a mole on my back well before it was discovered to be melanoma. But I found a mole on my back that was a little itchy, that was a little funny shaped. The coloring was off. And I just chalked it up to, I'm sure it's fine. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And I also was in a position where finances, getting doctor's appointments, health insurance, all that, we were kind of in limbo. And so looking back, and this is what I tell people if anyone would ever to ask me about how important having your health insurance and just making sure if you ever have anything that you're suspicious of to get checked. But in 2017, I had the mole for a while, and I decided I needed to get myself to a primary care doctor and get it checked out. So I went to a primary care doctor for my health overall and also to check the mole out. And my primary care doctor said, "This doesn't look right," and immediately got me to an appointment with a dermatologist. I had a dermatologist appointment within days, which is really hard to do usually, but they got me right in. So I went to the dermatologist, and at this time I was living in Maine, in Portland, Maine. And I went to the dermatologist and they biopsied it. They numb around it, and then they take some pieces off of, from your skin, and they send it off to biopsy it. And the nurse in the room and I were chit-chatting during this, and, just be like, this is what we do. This is routine. Worst case, it goes to your lymph nodes. So, okay, no big deal. Let's just get this done and get it over with. So I got that done, and then you wait to hear. I was at work, and several days later, and I got a call from my dermatologist and said, "This is something that we find very suspicious, likely melanoma. I want you to, get this checked out further." And he was going to put me in touch with people at Maine Med to do that. And I immediately reached out to my mom. And my mom and my stepdad knew of an oncologist at Mass General Hospital in Boston. So as, having someone that my family knew, decided we'll go this route. And so I connected with Mass General Hospital and luckily got an appointment immediately. I met with the surgical oncologist who gave me a look, looked at the biopsy, looked at the results, looked at my back, and he said, "What we're going to do is we're going to make sure we clear the margins. So you'll have surgery. I'll clear the margins so that it's clear around that area, and then we're going to inject the dye in and around where that cancer could have spread. So what you do, you'll come back, you're going to get your injection, and then we're going to take you into surgery. We'll clear the margins, and then where we find that dye settles could be meaning that where that dye settles and where it lights up could indicate where cancer could be." So I went through that process, and it's all happens quickly, and you're kind of like, oh, this is really what's happening, but you just do it. The dye kind of went everywhere, my right armpit, down into my lymph nodes, and so it lit up in a lot of spots in my right armpit. And they did the injection, was in my back near the site of my mole. So they took out most of my lymph nodes in my right armpit, and then after that, they'd tell you, you'll be back at work in a few days. And truthfully, when you get a pretty much almost a full dissection, it's pretty painful, and it takes a little bit to recover. So next steps, they said, is we'll get the results, and then we'll take, then next steps, if needed, will be scans. And so in the next, probably week or so, I went back into the hospital and met with my doctor, and they let me know that I had a lymph node test positive for melanoma, and that next steps would be a PET scan, a CT scan, and a brain MRI. Melanoma will spread like wildfire. It goes everywhere. Everywhere. It can go everywhere. So you really have to get fully checked from head to toe. So I was with my mom, and I was with my husband. My mom flew in from Michigan, from Ann Arbor, and we went downstairs into the lobby, and we just kind of all just sat there and at the cafe and looked at each other. And then my husband goes, "We're going to get through this. We're going to take care of it. It's going to be all right." I moved forward, went back to work, went back to Boston to get my scans, where I learned I was claustrophobic. Getting a brain MRI, they allowed my husband to hold my foot. Nowhere since then has my husband been allowed in the room getting an MRI. I don't know why that would happen, but it was great, because I couldn't have gotten through it without that. My scans showed, luckily, that it hadn't spread anywhere else. So then it was to a point where, what type of treatment do we treat? What do we do? And when I went to talk to my doctor, my surgical oncologist, then, transferred me over to a different doctor, the melanoma doctor. And he said he wanted to do interferon, which was kind of getting to be an outdated treatment for melanoma, and not very as effective as it could be for what you go through and whatnot. So what I did is I wanted to get talking to my mom and my husband. My mom's very thorough and said, we have to get a second opinion. Let's go to University of Michigan, because that's where my family's in Michigan. And they reviewed everything, and they suggested surveillance, which would mean regular CT scans and ultrasound of the areas of my armpit where they found it, and other tests as needed, and coming every 6 months to University of Michigan, and that would be from Maine. At that same time, I did genetic testing, because my mom had just gone through that. She had breast cancer, was treated, and it was doing great after that. But I did get that genetic testing done, and I tested positive for a CHEK2 gene mutation. And what that means is I have a higher risk for thyroid cancer, breast cancer, and possibly colon cancer. And so then the idea was, when I came every 6 months to University of Michigan, that I would also just get my thyroid tested via ultrasound, and that I would get breast MRI and mammogram once a year, and then a colonoscopy every 3 years. So my life just kind of catapulted into this, kind of, okay, I got it. But you never go back from hearing that. Your carefreeness, you don't feel carefree in life ever. You don't, but you do after you get some sort of diagnosis. It's just, and I'm sure that other people can relate. So then the idea was, you know what? Whatever I have, if I get it again, will be found early. We decided to move to Florida, and we moved in the summer of 2021. And then in the next few months, I felt fine, but small things, like we got a new bed, and it was a purple mattress, and the purple mattress comes in a package, and all smushed up. You open it, it becomes a mattress. And I would think, gosh, I mean, people rave about these things, but like this bed hurts my back. I wasn't terrible back pain, but it just was different. It was there. So I ignored it, and I knew I was, I'm screened for all sorts of things, so I'm not worrying about it. It didn't even dawn on me at all until later. And then January, and so it was 2022, I was scrolling through Instagram and I find, on Instagram, they have different, do these stretches in 5 minutes or you'll feel better. So, these ads and they kind of suck you in. So I saw this, stretch that says, open up your hips and release the stress. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Life's stressful, and we weren't really thrilled with our move. We were ready to kind of like go back up to Maine, actually, because I had been laid off, and then eventually I was rehired. So I wanted to get back to where my job was, and we just thought, you know what, we've tried it. We'll be here for a year, but we can go. My husband and I. That's just who we are without kids. We've always been adventurous, just like that. So I'm just sitting on the floor. I'm like, well, let me do this, these stretches. I'm seeing on Instagram, so I do these stretches, and then within like a few days, it's like, wow, something doesn't feel right in my leg. I thought, oh, I just stretched wrong, or why did I do those stretches? It just really didn't feel right, and I just chalked it up to, moving my body the wrong way, because I had played tennis. We had at our apartment complex, we had tennis courts, and I walked our dog. Like, I had no issues before then. That stretch, so I blamed that stretch. That stretch was not good. But then it just became more painful. It was in my leg, and that's pain. I just took Advil, ibuprofen, whatever I could, and it just got worse. And I did my regular screenings in Michigan, and I said, yeah, I have pain in my leg. Like, okay, pains. It's like shooting down your leg. Oh, there's sciatica, there's all this stuff you got to go, go to the orthopedic doctors, they can help you. So I truthfully, like, I had pain, and nobody I talked to registered it as anything besides it's sciatica or something that needs to get stretched or PT to help it. So it got really bad. I went to the doctor, the orthopedic doctor, and he would say, oh, stand here or bend this way or do that way. And, what I was explaining, it didn't align with what someone would go in typically with an issue, like with a hip issue or displacement. It didn't align. But he said, prescribed me, I think, gabapentin, and said, you start PT. I started PT. It was not helping. It got really bad. I transferred to a different doctor. The pain was beyond pain. The only thing that would really help me was like a hot bath, and then the pain would come back. I was on, I tried different pain meds, and nothing would help me. Early May, the doctor said, this just doesn't add up, because what your symptoms are doesn't add up to anything that we would see normally. So he ordered a spine MRI. And in Florida, and I did the spine MRI, and their results came back with they called it something. They didn't call it a tumor or anything, but there was a few areas there that they recommended a bones, like more bone testing. So I reached out to my team in Michigan at U of M, and I said, this is what's the situation. And they said, yeah, send it to us. I sent that to them, the results, and they said, we need you to come here for a PET scan. We want you to do it locally here in Michigan, because then they can order it, and they can read it, and they can do all the interpretations and really see it how they want, and how to do it how they want to do it. And I said, okay. So this was mid-May of 2022. And we had decided at the end of our lease we were going to move back up to New England, move back to Portland. And so we had begun packing. We had an apartment picked out and everything. So I fly to Michigan, and then I get a PET scan, and I get here barely on my leg because it hurt. It's just I'm in an excruciating amount of pain where it's like I'd rather not live. I was in so much pain. It went up to my lower back, so it was my side, it was my hip, my back, my leg, my side, and nobody, including myself or anybody, ever would have said anything but that cancer related at all. So it's just interesting looking back. So I get my PET scan and done, and then I'm at home. And mind you, getting tests is going to hurt because I can't sit still and lay down for that long. So I'm in pain. So I'm at home and resting because that's all I can do, and then and working because I needed to work. And my doctor's office calls and they have the results for me. And then they read off, my nurse practitioner, who I'd been working with for many years, read off to me and my mom the results. We were downstairs in the den. My husband was in Florida with our dog, and she just kept going. She said, she listed my femur. So what that pain was a lesion in my femur eating my bone away. And that's why it was so painful. And then talking about the other areas being and I don't know every detail. Like I've always said to my team, like, I don't need everything. Like, I don't need to sit and be overwhelmed and depressed about every single thing. Just tell me what I need to know, and then I'll get it treated. My husband gets here, and then it's all like hands on deck. Like, I made appointments for radiation, the radiation oncologist, with the doctor that could potentially do surgery, with my oncologist, with everything, and then more tests ordered. So I immediately got in. It was so dire and I had a team that was very able to just get me in right away and get things going. So we met with the doctor about my leg and doing surgery, and she said, even with treatment, eventually, hopefully your femur would build back up, but I recommend surgery. So surgery is putting in hardware, so nails and screws, so that my bone doesn't break. Going into surgery, I didn't know, like, what's it going to feel like? I've never, had major surgery or had any implants or rods or anything like that in me. So I I was just positive, and I did it. And so we did the surgery, and then the surgery went really well, but it's very painful afterwards, the pain. So your recovery, you can't shower for 30 days. So you have to do body showers. I was with a walker, which walking had gotten too hard anyways, but it was all going to be better. Like after the surgery was going to be better. And then about a week to two after my surgery is when I got a brain and spine MRI, because they needed to specifically find from the MRIs and such where everything was and how they were going to treat it. So then I got close to 2-hour MRI on my brain and my spine. I don't know how I did it. I did not have enough Ativan because I didn't know it was going to be 2 hours, and it was hot, and I'm claustrophobic, and I was in pain because I had just had the surgery, but I did it. I got through it. And then we met with my doctor, and then the plan was going to be immunotherapy and radiation. The radiation was going to be around my hip area, my lower back, my spine, and I was going to be shrink wrapped. So what I mean by that is not just laying on a table. I'm talking plastic, like they put meat and shrink wrap it in the store. They fitted me for it, and then I get in it, and then they push the button, and it shrinks to go around me because they had specifically to get into certain spots, and for what I had and where I had it, that's what they needed. And then the other part of treatment was going to be immunotherapy, which would be done once a week. I wasn't going to get a port. It was just going in once a month. I'm sorry, immunotherapy treatment was once a month. And what that entailed is a day of getting your blood drawn, then meeting with your doctor to get results to ensure, based on your blood work, that your body was okay to accept the drugs, and then do immunotherapy for a few hours. The plan with immunotherapy was to go on it as long as I could, probably 2 years. And that I also forgot to mention is that I started having pancreas, my issues. My pancreas was upset, which was a side effect from immunotherapy. So I went on prednisone. I went on steroids. And I did that. And it helped. But then they stopped my treatment in February because I got good results. Then in October was time for my next round of scans. And that's in 2023. And I had not one, but 2 tumors in my leg, in the top left of my leg, that were painful and uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, here we go again. It's just like, this is what's going to happen. Here we go again. And my doctor said, we will do radiation. There's 2 spots, so we're not going to do surgery. We'll do radiation. And then that should fix it. And I was like, great. Like, I love radiation. Meanwhile, on my left side from radiation, so much scar tissue, and time spent on my hip affected my hip. So my joint in my hip, that ball that allows you to be able to have full flexibility with your leg, it's tight. And so I don't have full leg flexibility. So I had started PT to alleviate the side, which my husband says it looks like a shark bit me, because the muscle, the tissue got so tight from radiation. So I've been in, then what happened is it tightened up my left side so much that my right leg is shorter than my left leg by a good few inches. And then I got a tilted pelvis. And so I was carrying my leg. So this is just side effects from everything like the radiation and everything. So it was carrying my leg with my right side. So my right side has been carrying my left leg. And so I've been in PT to straighten out my whole body and to work with this. I have a lift in my right shoe because of the height difference. And so it's only now because I've been in PT, and I'm in a really great PT program. I had a spine MRI over the summer that showed a little spot that could potentially be melanoma. My doctor said, let's go. Let's just start immunotherapy again. I have a great doctor. She's amazing, a great team. And so I started immunotherapy again. She changed one of the drugs. So I'm doing great now. Meaning I'm taking well to immunotherapy. My pancreas is not reacting to it. There's always the fatigue. There's the side effects of feeling crappy and sitting and standing and muscle pain, discomfort. But it's come so far, and I really feel like I'm in a place where the immunotherapy, which the goal is to be on for 2 years. It's thankfully, immunotherapy and radiation, that I'm alive and that I'm alive and well. So with treatment, it's been saved me. So I have a lot to be thankful for. And I've reconnected with friends, my college friends, because I went to school here. I'm closer to my family. I have a wonderful job, and so I'm blessed. I am blessed. But I want to share that melanoma, it's really not, it's not okay. It's very scary. It's very deadly. And it's important for people to make sure that they see their doctors for things that don't feel right. Even if their primary care doctor sees them, to do a skin check. It doesn't have to be a dermatologist, but getting your skin checked every year, or when you go to your primary care doctor, and just wearing sunscreen and taking care of yourself. You have to, because in one instant this can go everywhere. So that's my hope, is to really share with people that this is serious. It's not talked about enough. I follow a lot of accounts on Instagram of people that suffer, and people suffer horribly from it. But to have the support system and mentally to take care of yourself, I can't stress that enough. And that's so hard to do, but you got to do it.